It was pitch black and empty. She had clearly heard the sound of high heels clicking just moments ago. She couldn't have been mistaken. She shivered involuntarily, quickly slammed the door shut, and without looking back, she turned around and walked back into the office area. She swiped her card to get inside and closed the door behind her. At this point, Yeezy was no longer in the mood to continue working. She went back to her workstation, quickly saved her files, shut down her computer, packed up her things, and decided to head home. Before leaving, she turned off the lights in the office area, pressing the switches one by one. As she was about to turn off the last few lights, she suddenly heard the sound of high heels clicking again, asterisk, click, 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 asterisk. This time, the sound was not outside the company's entrance, but inside near the reception. The sound of high heels stopped abruptly, and then Yeezy heard a series of bubbling noises. From the water dispenser near the reception, someone was getting a drink of water. Yeezy heard these sounds very clearly, and immediately became nervous. She wasn't the type to scream at the slightest noise, but she was still on edge. Instead of turning off the remaining lights, she quietly opened the access control and stepped out of the office area. She tiptoed towards the reception, curious to see who had come in. The water dispenser was located in a corner near the entrance, a bit away from the reception. The reception area was dark since the lights were off, and Yeezy had turned off most of the lights in the office area. From where she stood, she couldn't see clearly, but she could make out a figure standing by the water dispenser, facing away from her, bent over as if getting a drink. Yeezy noticed that the company's main door was wide open. She couldn't see the person's face, only a vague outline. The person had long hair and appeared to be a woman. She stood by the office door and called out, "Miss Wong, is that you?" The person clearly heard Yeezy's voice, but didn't turn around or respond. Instead, the woman slowly tilted her head to the right, further and further, until her head was almost touching her right shoulder. Yeezy, despite her bravery, was terrified by the situation. Instinctively, she took a few steps back into the office area and slammed the door shut. The access control locked it with a click. She was genuinely frightened and immediately thought of calling security. She rushed back to her desk, picked up her phone, and her hands were trembling as she dialed the security office. As soon as the call connected, she stared nervously at the door. The security guard on the other end answered, "Hello, may I ask who is calling?" Yeezy's voice was already trembling and on the verge of tears. "Security, it's me. I'm on the 15th floor. Something's happened. Please come up." The security guard was surprised. "Ma'am, what's wrong? What happened?" Yeezy cried out, "I'm on the 15th floor. There's a stranger in our company. I'm alone in the office. Please hurry." "The 15th floor." The security guard quickly responded, Okay, don't worry. Stay in the office and don't move. We're on our way." Yeezy hung up the phone and turned on all the lights in the office area. She then stood nervously by her workstation, keeping an eye on the door. She was afraid that the person outside might suddenly bang on the door or try to get in. She stood there, shivering and staring at the entrance. But there was no sound from outside. Under normal circumstances, it would take the security guard no more than 3 to 4 minutes to come up from the security office via the elevator. But Yeezy had been waiting anxiously in the office for almost 10 minutes, and no one had arrived yet. Just as she was feeling both anxious and scared, she suddenly heard someone shouting outside, "Hello, is anyone there? I'm the duty security guard. Is anyone there?" Upon hearing this, Yeezy almost cried with relief. It was Uncle Jang's voice. She shouted back from inside the office, "Uncle Jang, is that you? It's Yeezy." Uncle Jang recognized her voice and responded, "Miss Yi, it's me. Don't be nervous." "What happened? Are you okay?" Yeezy quickly walked to the door, which was still locked. She peeked through the crack and saw that it was indeed Uncle Jang outside. He was sweating profusely. She quickly unlocked the door and let him in. As soon as he entered, Uncle Jung asked her what had happened. Yeezy immediately recounted the situation to him. After listening, Uncle Jung's expression turned very serious. He explained to Yeezy why it had taken him so long to arrive. It turned out that Uncle Jung had been on duty with another young security guard that night. The young guard had answered Yeezy's call and was also startled. He quickly informed Uncle Jung, saying, "Uncle Jung, there is a lady from the 15th floor calling us asking us to go up urgently. She says she's on duty alone and that there's a stranger in their company." Upon hearing this, Uncle Jung immediately prepared to go up to the 15th floor. He brought his walkie-talkie and flashlight ready to take the elevator. His young colleague, also not wasting any time, started checking the surveillance footage of the 15th floor and the elevator as they needed to call the police immediately if they spotted any suspicious individuals. He told Uncle Jung, "Uncle Jung, be careful up there." Uncle Jung quickly went to the elevator and pressed the button to go up. The elevator, which was on the 13th floor, started descending. However, it stopped at every floor, as if someone had pressed the buttons on each floor as a prank. It stopped at the 12th, 11th, and so on, all the way down to the first floor, wasting a lot of time. Uncle Jung was very anxious. When the elevator doors opened on the first floor, he saw that there was no one inside. He quickly entered and pressed the button for the 15th floor. The elevator started going up again, but stopped at the 13th floor. Uncle Jung thought someone might be waiting for the elevator there, but when the doors opened, there was no one. He looked out into the corridor, where the motion-activated lights were on, but there was no one around. He pressed the closed door button and waited for the elevator to go up to the 15th floor. However, as soon as the doors closed, the elevator did not go up, but started going down again. Uncle Jung quickly pressed the button for the 15th floor again, but the elevator kept going down to the first floor. The doors opened and there was still no one outside. Uncle Jung was getting more anxious and puzzled. He pressed the button for the 15th floor several more times and tried to close the doors, but they wouldn't close properly. Every time they closed halfway, they would open again with a click. After several attempts, Uncle Jung quickly exited the elevator. He used his walkie-talkie to ask his colleague in the security room, "Is there anything on the surveillance?" His colleague replied, "Uncle Jung, why haven't you gone up yet? There's nothing unusual. I've checked the elevator and the surveillance on the 15th floor, and I haven't seen anything. Why haven't you gone up?" Uncle Jung said, "This damn elevator is malfunctioning again. The doors won't close properly. I'll just take the stairs." He jogged up the stairs, taking them two at a time, and reached the 15th floor drenched in sweat. When he arrived at the entrance of Yeezy's company, he found the door open and called out for her. Yeezy, already terrified by the situation and the elevator's condition, which reminded her of the time she had nearly been hit by falling glass, started crying. Uncle Jung quickly comforted her, saying, it's okay, don't be afraid. I'll call my colleague to come up." He used the walkie-talkie to call the young security guard, who soon arrived via the elevator without any issues. Uncle Jung then asked the young guard to stay with Yeezy while he checked the entire 15th floor. After a thorough search, he returned and shook his head, indicating that he hadn't found anything unusual or the woman with the twisted neck that Yeezy had mentioned. Eventually, the two security guards helped Yeezy turn off all the lights in the office and lock the door. They escorted her downstairs in the elevator, which this time functioned normally. Once they reached the first floor, the guards comforted Yeezy until she calmed down. Uncle Jung even called a taxi for her before they left. After getting home, Yeezy developed a fever and couldn't get out of bed the next day. Her department had Miss Wong only learned about Yeezy's experience when she came to work the next day. Miss Wang specifically asked the security guards about the incident and was also frightened by what she heard. She called Yizi, who was still feverish and groggy, to ask about the previous night's events. Miss Wang reassured her, saying, "Yizi, focus on getting better. If you need to go to the hospital, don't worry about work." Yizi took nearly a week off to recover before returning to the company. When she came back, she specifically thanked Uncle Zhang and the young security guard for their help and asked about the details of the incident. During this conversation, Yizi learned something from the young security guard about the woman with the twisted neck she had seen. What happened over 3 years ago, before Uncle Zhang started working as a security guard in this building. The 15th floor, where Yizi's company was located, was occupied by a different company. One weekend, when the building was empty except for one woman working overtime, the elevator malfunctioned. When the woman tried to leave work and pressed the elevator button, it wouldn't come. She decided to take the stairs down, wearing high heels. She started descending from the 15th floor. Just as she reached the 13th floor, she twisted her ankle and lost her balance, tumbling down the stairs. She landed at the corner of the 13th floor, suffering a severe injury that broke her neck. She died instantly. The security guards discovered her through the surveillance footage and were horrified. By the time they called 120 for emergency services, it was too late. Those who saw the woman's body at the scene were deeply disturbed. Her death was gruesome, and she died with her eyes wide open, her expression one of sheer terror. After that incident, for reasons unknown, the elevator in the office building began to malfunction frequently. There had been occasional issues before, but nothing as severe as this. The elevator inexplicably kept stopping at the 13th floor, disregarding any control inputs. It would stop at every floor, opening the doors without any clear reason. Despite multiple inspections, no specific cause was found. Following the accident, the company that had occupied the 15th floor experienced a sudden and significant decline in performance. Problems kept arising, and eventually the company moved out. Later, Yizi's international trade company moved in. Initially, everything was fine. However, in the second year after Uncle Zhang started working there, another incident occurred. A woman working overtime was blown back into the building by a strange wind, just like Yizi. She was later hit by falling debris on her left shoulder. Rumors began to spread within Yizi's company that the 15th floor was haunted. Strange occurrences and unexplained errors started to plague the company's operations. This was followed by a wave of resignations. Eventually, the company's leadership, through their connections, brought in a feng shui master to address the issues. Surprisingly, things seemed to improve for a while. But then another incident happened. Yizi, who had been skeptical about such things, began to change her views after her own experiences. She wasn't sure if the rumors were true or reliable, but these events had a profound impact on her. When she returned to the company, she immediately told Miss Wang about what had happened and honestly said she wanted to resign. Miss Wang was understanding and quickly agreed to her request. Less than half a year later, Yizi learned that Miss Wang had also resigned from the company. Another year passed, and due to business reasons, Yizi had to visit the old office building again. She specifically asked Uncle Zhang, who was still working there, if anything had happened on the 15th floor. He confirmed that nothing had been reported since the last incident. However, Yizi noticed something different. The elevators in the building had been replaced with a new brand. Not only that, but the floor numbers had changed. The 13th and 14th floors no longer existed. Instead, the 13th floor was now labeled as 12+, and the 14th floor was 15-. It was unclear if this change was advised by another master, but by then, it no longer mattered to Yizi.